Because yeah, okay, now I got it. The, yeah, we're in the 21st century, and it almost scares me half to death. But I'm not going to be, as Grandma used to say, I'm not going to be scared. I'm just going to go and do it. So that's what it's all about, ladies and gentlemen. We have with us tonight a man that when I read his resume, it literally blows me away. He's not only a man that has a tremendous resume, he is a very good man, and I mean that from the depths of my heart. He's a very good man. Years ago, Jeff was on the radio show, and Jeff, I think that was when you first started your Himalaya adventure, or right after you wrote your first book, or something like that.
Yeah, I think that's right. It's been that would have been back in about 2009, I think, maybe 2010.
Yeah, my. Uh, and here we are. This time, people get to see face to face the real Jeff Rasley.
Yeah, they might scream and run away.
Jeff, before we go any further, I've got to ask you this because, man, when I read this, I cracked up. Uh, your wife told you to take a hike in 1995, and brother, you literally took a hike that led you on this tremendous adventure, didn't it?
Yeah, I had turned 40 and was, as she said, manifesting midlife crisis symptoms. And so her recommended therapy was to go take a hike, and where she suggested I go was on the other side of the world.
And you literally went to the other side of the world, right?
That's right. Well, it was her idea. One night I came home from the office and I'm sure I was looking grumpy, and life was very sort of stressful at that time. And she slapped this brochure about trekking the Mount Everest Base Camp Trail down in front of me on the table and said, "Why don't you go do this?"
Wow. Nothing like a real challenge, huh? Uh, I
Yeah, especially being a flatlander here in Indiana, it wasn't like I had any mountain climbing experience.
I I when I read that, I mean, honest, I literally cracked up. I laughed tears because I thought I've told people to go take a hike. People's told me to go take a hike, but I've never heard of anyone being told to take a hike and then you literally take a hike on the other side of the planet. I mean, I just cracked up and I thought I got to ask Jeff first thing about this take a hike thing. Jeff, people are interested in knowing what your background is.
Well, I grew up in what was a small town in northern Indiana, Goshen, Indiana. It's not that small now. Graduated from high school, started college, dropped out, hitchhiked across the country, went over to London to go to college there for a while, hitchhiked all around Europe. Came back, went to Hanover College, the alma mater of our vice president and Woody Harrelson, and then transferred to the University of Chicago. Eventually went to law school, became a lawyer, practiced law for 30 years, but whenever I had a chance, did what eventually came to be called adventure traveling, scuba diving, solo sea kayaking, motorcycling, that kind of traveling. But when I got the "go take a hike" message from my wife, that was the the first time I was exposed to the incredibly beautiful, splendid peaks of the Himalayas.
And I was looking at that. You are in the bar in Indiana, U.S. District Court, and the U.S. Supreme Court. Uh, and I ask people that has a resume similar to yours, which not many do. Not many do. What do you do in your spare time, Jeff?
What spare time?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, I mean, actually, that was what was kind of that was the problem that led my wife to tell me to go take a hike. At that time, we had two young kids. I was the senior partner in a small law firm, and we were, working our butts off to make the practice go. I was very active in my church. I served on a couple nonprofit boards, and I was just stretched too thin. And Alicia recognized that. And so she recommended the therapy she did. But since I retired from the law at age 55, and so now I've had 10 years since then without the distraction of actually having to take care of clients and make a living at it. So I've been able to devote more time to serving on some nonprofit boards and working with a foundation that I started over in Nepal called the Basa Village Foundation, which is still going strong, although I'm no longer the president. So, life is good. My wife is no longer telling me to go take a hike. In fact, I think she thinks maybe I've taken a few too many.
Is there a possibility that you went off you stepped off the edge somewhere along the line? Is that what she said?
Well, she's upstairs. I could call her down and we could see. But no, after that first time of hiking the Everest Base Camp Trail, I've been back to Nepal 14 times and climbed a number of mountains and got this foundation going, and so that became a major part of my life.
For those folks that might not know, and by the way, I guess this is an old classmate of yours. Uh, can you see the comment there?
Yeah, Don Chup. We're we're both Goshen Redskins. Yeah, I grew up together in Goshen.
All right. What was I asking you now? Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy! Don't take long for the train to fall right off the track. Oh,
I was gonna say, George, you're not that old.
No, I'm getting younger every day. Uh, for people that don't really know, tell us where Nepal is, about the Himalayas, and just basically where is it at in this great big world?
Yeah. Well, by time zones, it's 14 hours and 15 minutes away from the U.S. Eastern time zone. But if you, in terms of where it is on the map, picture India and then picture China. And Nepal is tucked in to India has this northern tip, kind of comes to a point. Nepal is tucked in east of that and below China, which is in Tibet. In fact, I don't like calling that part of China China because of how it's treated the Dalai Lama and Tibetans. But so to the east of Nepal, immediately east is Bhutan. Immediately west is that upper northern tip of India, and then immediately north is Tibet.
Let me put this book up here real quick so people can see it again. You have to get lost before you can be found. Wow. A memoir of suffering, grit, and love of the Himalayas in Bassa Village. Something happened to you when you went on that first hike, didn't it?
Yeah, I was stunned by the majestic splendor of the Himalayan mountains. I mean, I traveled around a lot in the U.S. I'd crossed the Rockies a few times, but there's something about being in the highest mountains of the world that just really impressed me. And then the other thing was the Sherpa culture, the people that live in the high mountains and manage to cope with just incredibly tough conditions. And yet they have this very sweet, giving, generous personalities. Unfortunately, in some areas where there are a lot of tourists, that's changed somewhat. But I was, Sir Edmund Hillary called the Sherpa people the strongest and kindest people in the world. And that was my impression of them too. So that really touched me. I wanted to go back. I wanted to learn how to become a mountain climber. So when I went back, I joined a mountaineering expedition with one of America's most famous mountain climbers, a guy named John Rasley, and learned mountaineering skills from him, and then eventually started leading expeditions myself. And because of just the way I responded to the people that live up in the Himalayas, I wanted to do something for them. I mean, I felt like they gave me these amazing experiences, so I wanted to give back. So I started doing what I coined the term philanthrotrekking, which was to combine going trekking and mountaineering with some kind of a philanthropy project. And eventually that evolved into the Bassa Village Foundation.
I think the first time we talked, and correct me if I'm wrong, uh, you were working on getting a water supply or water system set up. Do I remember that correctly, or am I off base
Yeah.
somewhere?
No, that's right. That was one of the early projects the foundation did. Um, the very first project was to add to a village school in the village of Bassa. And the people who live in the Bassa area are not Sherpas. They're of a different ethnic tribal group called the Rai people, which is spelled Rai. And I had got connected with the Rai people and the people from Bassa because guys that were the staff, the guide, cook, porters for an expedition I did in 2006 impressed me the same way as the Sherpas, with their strength, their toughness, and their sweet personalities and kindness. And in the course of that expedition, our guide, a guy named Ganesh Rai, told me about this little village school they had in his home village that had 3 grades, and they wanted to add a 4th and a 5th grade. And he told me that the owner of the company that we were using, called Adventure Geotreks, had donated the land in the village for the school, and with the help of a French Canadian NGO, they'd gotten the school started with 3 grades, and they wanted to add a 4th and a 5th grade. And so I got back to Kathmandu, met with Niru Rai, which was the owner of Adventure Geotreks, and my guide, Ganesh. And they told me that if I could raise $5,000, that could pay for all the materials to add a 4th and a 5th grade, and would pay teachers' salaries, a 4th and a 5th grade teacher's salaries, for 3 years. So if you do the math, for $5,000 to add 2 grades to a school, I mean, it's incredibly inexpensive. So I thought that's a pretty big bang for the philanthropic buck. So I did a fundraising project. We raised the money. A group of us went trekking to Bassa Village to see the school, meet the teachers. And I just kind of fell in love with this little village and kept going back. And the next project was a hydroelectric project, because just, a quick mental picture of this village. There's no running water. There are no toilets, no TV, no radio, no vehicles with wheels, no road to the village. The only way to get there is to walk for days. The people are living the same way they've lived for 500 years. The only thing new to the village life was this 3-grade school. They're all subsistence farmers. They grow what they eat what they grow. There's no stores. So it's like sort of how we might imagine medieval Europe, a village in medieval Europe was. And so anyway, the water project was the 3rd project we did. The school, then hydroelectricity, and then water. And we have been doing, more projects since then.
How long, when you went there the first time, and even the second time, how long did it take you to, and the only way in was to hike and walk, right?
Right.
How long did it take you to go from point A, where you started, to the village?
Yeah. Well, to start in Indianapolis, you fly for about 30 hours to get to Kathmandu. And then back in 2008 was the first year I visited the village. You drove from Kathmandu to the end of the road, which ended in a town called Jiri. And from Jiri, you walked for 4 days to get to Bassa, over two 10,000-foot passes. George, are you there? I just lost. Oh, there you are.
I'm here.
Okay. Sorry, lost the picture there for a minute. But so you have to hike over two 10,000-foot high passes, and after 4 days or so, you arrive in the village. So now, and the thing is, it's changed. There's an airstrip that's a day and a half from there now, so you could fly to this big village called Poplu and walk for a day and a half. And as of 2 years ago, a road finally made it to Bassa. So you can drive on this road, although the top speed limit, limited not by law, but by the ability of a vehicle to cope with this road, is about 10 miles per hour. So you can almost get there as fast by walking as driving.
When you were climbing the Himalayas, and you already mentioned how you were struck by its beauty, was there a spiritual connection that you felt take place as you just laid your eyes on this whole beauty of nature?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the phrase mountaintop experience, that, we use that to describe any wonderful, awesome spiritual experience that you can have. But why do we call it a mountaintop experience? We call it that because when you're really on a mountaintop, just being there, having done the work, met the challenge it requires to get there, and then to be able to see. I mean, you see so far that you can see the curve of the earth, is an amazing, wonderful experience. And then the people, the Rai people, I found even more spiritually moving for me personally than the Sherpas. The Sherpas are Buddhists. But the Rai people have an ancient religion that even precedes Buddhism or Hinduism. Hinduism is considered, of the major religions, the oldest religion. But these, we would call them animists because they think that God is everywhere in everything, which creates this really wonderful what I call super environmentalism attitude, because you respect everything. You respect, insects. Everything is respected because the spirit, Holy Spirit, godly spirit is everywhere in everything. Just to share a little story to illustrate this. So I'm walking down a trail with my friend and guide, Ganis, and there's a rock in the middle of the trail, and I start to kick the rock out of the way. Ganis gently takes hold of my shoulder and stops me from kicking the rock. And I, look at him like, what the hell are you doing? And he says, Jeff Dai means big brother, Jeff Dai, rock should be respected. Rock has spirit too. And so he just, he doesn't bend over and pick it up with his hands, but with his boot, he just moves it out of the way. And, that just kind of illustrates this wonderful attitude they have in this little village where, these are uneducated subsistence farmers, yet they were intelligent enough to recognize they needed to plant 1,000 trees around their village because they will not cut down a tree for fuel, as wood is their primary fuel. They'll pick up sticks, they'll cut limbs off, but they realize that they were getting nearer to a point where they wouldn't have enough fuel and they would have to start cutting down trees, which they think doesn't respect the trees. So they planted 1,000 trees.
Wow. How many people were in the village the first time you visited, and has it grown since the last time you've been there?
Yeah, in fact, it's an interesting problem. The population of the village is about 300 people. Uh, and when I visit and bring friends, every single person in the village lines up to greet us, and every single person has a garland of marigolds that they put around our necks until we're literally covered in flowers. So you have to move the marigolds, the wreaths, the leis out of your eyes so you can see. But the interesting problem is there's a medical clinic that's 2 hours away on foot, and when this medical clinic opened, and that was about back in the around in the late 1990s, there was a population explosion in the village because of having access to medical care. Before that, 3 out of 4 babies would die. Mm. And after that, it completely reversed. 3 out of 4 babies lived. So there was this huge, there was a baby boom, the baby boom generation in Bassa Village. They're now teenagers. But this created a real problem for the village, which is why they first started the school. They realized that these kids could not all stay in the village. The village could not sustain that many mouths to feed. So they said, okay, we'll start a school. Our kids will get educated, and then some of them are going to have to leave and go to Kathmandu or go to the big cities and try to find jobs. And eventually, the villagers realized that they could also use modern medicine, i.e. birth control, to do family planning, which they do now. And so the birth rate has leveled off again. But there's this big population bulge of kids that are now teenagers that, is a real problem because for generation after generation, the kids grew up, they married other kids from Bassa or from nearby villages, and they took over the family farm. But when you've got, 4, 5, 6 kids, there's no way that many, families, go from 1 or 2 families farming one plot, 5 or 6, the same plot, it doesn't work. So that was, in a way, that was what drew me into the village, because they realized that just a 3rd grade education wasn't going to be enough to help these kids. They needed more than that if they were going to be able to be employable in the city.
Wow. What they're very. I was looking at some of the pictures on your website. Very colorful people, aren't they? I mean, when it comes to, I guess the best way I can do it is just put this up here and let you explain it.
Yeah, that's a picture from the last time I was in Bassa, which was 2017. And the kids, whenever we visit, the school kids put on a dancing and singing performance for us. And the mothers make these really beautiful costumes. And in Bassa, because they don't really have any other art media, their art is in clothing and flowers. So they make jewelry out of flowers, and they make these really, beautiful outfits for the kids. Some of the women have really amazing jewelry too. They actually the older women wear these things in their noses, which are called balukis, and it's like this kind of this dangling bunch of jewelry. It looks like what you might think of as a child's mobile, like that you put over a baby's, a bassinet to keep so the baby has something to look at. And they wear these in their noses, which is sort of startling the first time you see it. And it's interesting. Every time I've been to the village, the kids have different outfits on for their performance. And one of our last projects was for school uniforms, because the kids, their uniforms were getting really ratty. I mean, they were, at least 10 years old, and it was, most of the kids have one uniform, and they wear that uniform every day to school. So this last time in 2017, they got nylon tracksuits, and the kids just loved that. I mean, the girls were wearing pants, which they had not worn before, because the girls' school uniforms were skirts, which they would often wear over pants when it's cold. But they got these really cool, shiny nylon tracksuits, which is also, and I've got some of the pictures in the book of the kids in their tracksuits.
Yes, let me bring this book back up here again. Jeff not only wrote this one, but this, ladies and gentlemen, now hold on to your socks because it'll blow them right off your feet. This is his 10th book. Is that correct, Jeff? The 10th one?
Right, yeah, that's number 10.
And that's not counting all the articles that you've written throughout your life for periodicals. What did I read that you wrote for Newsweek? Some articles in there too?
Yeah. Yeah, I've had around 80 articles published in different journals, some law review type articles, but mostly adventure travel type articles, adventure spiritual articles.
And you can get this book plus the other 9 books. You get them all at Amazon, right, Jeff?
Right. Yeah. Amazon, this gigantic octopus, is taking over everything. In fact, this book, the only place you can get it is through Amazon, because, and I'm not really happy about this, but so it goes. Amazon offers these deals to writers and publishers that if you sell exclusively through Amazon, then they'll do some promotion for you and that kind of thing. But you have to sell exclusively through Amazon, and so okay. But what bothers me about this latest version of their deal is it used to be, if I had a friend who said, "Oh, I want to get your book, but I don't use Amazon," well, you could go to a bookstore, go to any bookstore, and the bookstore can order it. They can't do that anymore. Amazon requires you to buy through Amazon. You can't buy it through a bookstore, which would then buy it through Amazon. And I don't even think libraries can get it, which it used to be. Any library could order the book, and anybody could place the book in the library. But because of this exclusive arrangement with Amazon, I'm not sure even libraries can get the book.
That's a shame. That is a real shame. Wow. Let me shoot this thing back down here. But ladies and gentlemen, you can get it. Right there is the website for Amazon. It's available with Kindle too, right?
Right. Yeah. And I mean, anybody who has a computer can actually get a free download from Amazon for the ebook. I mean, this ebook, any ebook through Amazon, which is pretty cool. I mean, again, this is the thing about Amazon. It's so good at what it does, but it becomes kind of monopolistic in these different ways. It pushes other businesses out of the enterprise. But so, yeah, even if you don't have a Kindle, but you want to read an ebook, you just go to Amazon, click on the download for the free app, and then you can order ebooks.
All right, and ladies and gentlemen, there is the link to go get that book. Uh, 10 books, 80 or 90 different articles over a period of time. In this particular, excuse me, in this particular book, you're writing about your memoirs. You were at the village, I think, for the last time in 2017. Is that correct?
Right.
Do you have plans on going back?
No.
Okay.
I'm 66. Yeah, I know I don't look at,
No, you don't. You don't.
right, with this old gray beard. But whenever I've gone to Nepal, I've always wanted to be in condition to be able to do a mountaineering expedition along with doing the foundation work. And the last 2 times I've gone, I injured myself, not mountain climbing, but training to get in shape for the climb that I had planned. And my legs seem to be telling me that they're tired of that rigorous level of training. And so I've decided if I can't, get to the top of the mountain as a climber, that part of that phase of life is past. I'll continue working with the foundation. But the trekking part of my philanthro trekking, I'm recognizing, like other phases in life, has now ended.
And so you write the book with all your memoirs. That you talked about the grit, heartaches, and so on and so forth. And it's what, 400? Did I see 496 pages, or is it something like that?
Yeah, it's about 490 pages. There are a lot of pictures in it, so it isn't just complete. Almost 500 pages of words.
There is another picture here that I'd like to throw up there. Is that you on the bridge?
No, it's me behind the camera.
You behind the camera. Okay.
That's actually another friend from Goshen by the name of Dennis Matthews, who I grew up with and played sports with all through middle school and high school. And he's been to Nepal with me twice, and that's a bridge on the way to Basa.
When we sit here in America, and there are so many people that can't even fathom living where you would have to cross such a bridge, much less be able to live in those conditions that those people have lived in for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. They have to be some tough people.
Yeah, they are. And that's actually a fairly nice bridge compared to some. Some, they're just a log. I mean, there's at least one. There's a few pictures in the book of bridges that are nothing more than a great big log or some boards. In some cases, just boulders that you step or jump from one boulder to another to cross a stream. Yeah, but and I mean, imagine. So in 2008, 10 years ago, in Basa village and many villages through the Himalayan region There's no running water, no electricity. In Bassa today, there are no toilets. Uh, these people are used to just they find some place to go. That's how they live. They think nothing of it. They have, for generations, have drunk water right out of the river. When we designed the water system, those of us on this side of the world assumed that there would be a filtration piece to the design. The local people didn't want a filter. They wanted to continue drinking their river water. Now, if you or I drank that water, we'd get sick. Mm-hmm. But they're drinking water still, even though it's now piped to the village and there's a faucet. It's not indoor. They don't have indoor plumbing, but they have a faucet outside of their homes now. They're drinking straight river water.
Wow, Jeff, what do you think was your most exhilarating moment, and what was your most heartbreaking moment?
Well, I can tell you two heartbreaking moments, and the first one is I open with a description of this on the first book that I wrote about the Himalayas, which is called Bringing Progress to Paradise. And that was in 1999. My climbing team was on our way out from a mountain called Mira Peak, and we were at this 14,000 foot high pass. We're getting ready to go down, and there were three local Nepalese porters up above us, and an avalanche struck. And those of us on our team, we ran down this steep mountainside, escaped the avalanche, but the three guys above us were killed. And it was a terrible avalanche season. There were avalanches all the way across the Himalayas. A lot of other people died. One famous American mountain climber named Alex Lowe was killed in the avalanches that same week. So that was hard to live with. In fact, I didn't go back to Nepal for 5 years, from 99, or 4 years, 99 to 03, because I didn't want to participate in a sport, mountain climbing, which would risk the lives of our porters. But the other, which is kind of a happy, sad, a poignant experience, was the last time I was in Bassa, because we had a big celebration, and one of my companions, and who's been the chairman of the board of Bassa Village, who's actually 10 years older than me, a guy named Mike Miller, we had let the village know that this would be the last time the two of us ever expected to visit the village. And so the sort of the master of ceremonies, a guy named Sangha Rai, who's been my guide a number of times and has become a dear friend, he started crying during the ceremony when he was trying to thank Mike and me for what we had done. They gave us these beautiful brass plaques, brass on wood plaques that were handmade, and everybody in the village wanted to hug us, and it was beautiful, moving, sad, exhilarating, all those kind of the extreme experiences all in one evening. And the evening ended in this really beautiful way. We took these really interesting devices to the village. There's a company called Luminade, which makes lamps that are like plastic bags, and they fold up into little tiny squares. They have a solar battery and an LED light. And so you can blow the bag up, put it out in the sun. The solar battery will charge the LED light, and it'll last, if you leave it out in the sun for 5, 6, 7 hours, it'll last for twice that long, so up to 14 hours. And it's a lamp. It's a completely round, uh, circular shaped lamp. And so we gave one of those to every family in the village. And as the ceremony ended, and it's completely dark, it's late at night, the scene was these lights streaming all through the village as all the families went back to their homes. So my my vision of my last night in Bassa is seeing these lights that we had given to the villagers moving all across the village, and yeah, it's a beautiful vision to keep.
Wow. Let me pop this book back up here because, folks, you really need to get this book. And while you're at it, get the other ones too. I mean, you don't have to get them all at once, but this makes a little library in itself. You have to get lost before you can be found. My oh my, that's a beautiful cover on there, Jeff. With those mountains and my goodness. Sometimes I would say that sometimes I stop and think there are not enough people that just takes a little bit of time to appreciate the sunrise or the sunset, or as they say, take the time to smell the flowers. I know they say smell the coffee, but uh, you know, uh, there is so much beauty around us. And I'll give you an example. I lived outside of Pittsburgh for a short time, and I was in the city one day, and it's got the three rivers and bridges and this, and I was going across the bridge, and the traffic was heavy, and it was stop and start, and it was a beautiful sunshiny day. It was late in the fall. There was a chill in the air, and I was going across this bridge, and as the traffic was slowing down and stopping, I was watching people coming the other way, and blue skies and those little puffy clouds floating along, and I thought, man, this is a beautiful, beautiful day. So I started watching people that was coming in the opposite direction that was stopped because their traffic was backed up too, and I started taking count of people that were looking up, and I didn't find one person that, as they were coming the opposite direction, that took time when we were a complete stop to look up. And I would sit there and I would purposely, look up. I mean, it was, I want everybody to know that's beside me. This guy's looking up, because sometimes they see you looking up and then everybody else will look up. I couldn't even get nobody to look up. And so I think there's so many of us, so many times in our life that just don't stop long enough to appreciate the beauty that surrounds us and the places that you have been. It must have been breathtaking, for lack of a better term, literally breathtaking the first time you laid your eyes on it. And I suppose it was the same every time you went back, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah. I never got tired of it, of the views. I mean, I remember on one of the early mountain climbs I did, we were stuck in base camp, and so there were a bunch of climbing teams at this base camp, and so and the weather was so lousy, blizzard type conditions, we'd just go from tent to tent and hang out and drink tea with other climbers, and so I was talking with this old salt of a British mountaineer, and this was like his 50th mountaineering expedition or something. And I said, why do you keep doing this? And he just paused and kind of looked off and said, the views. It's just the views. And wow. And I mean, he was right. But, to think that you would go through, especially an older guy, I mean, he was as old as I am now. But that, would keep doing that because, you put your body through, I mean, I played rugby, football, ran track, swam, have done a lot of kind of, high level, rigorous athletics, but there's nothing I've ever done that's as physically challenging as mountaineering. But that he said, the view makes it all worthwhile.
Wow. You have to get lost before you can be found. Jeff, I'll tell you what, I could have you on every night of the week because I'm sure you have countless stories of your adventures. And yes, ladies and gentlemen, he's not only a writer, he's not only an adventurer, he was not only a lawyer, he's not only a great person, but yeah, he was a great athlete too. So you just look up Jeff Rasley and you'll see. Tremendous. I need to put this up here real quick, Jeff, lest I forget. Let me take this down. Let me go back here to these comments because there was a gentleman that said this. Turns out Jeff is one of the smartest guys I know. Very proud to know him. And you know what? I would have to agree with him 110%. My goodness gracious Aunt Sally, like my grandma used to say. What a tremendous, and you talk about a legacy, Jeff. You are going to leave behind a wonderful legacy. And what you did to minister to those people way on the other side of the planet when you were told to go take a hike. And it was a ministry. I don't know if there's any other word that can fit it, but the ministry when you took that first hike on the other side of the planet. What a legacy. So many people blessed. And I guess that just goes to show, Jeff, that one life can make a difference, doesn't it, old buddy?
Well, yeah. I mean, I end that book. I end the book by saying in the afterword that there were a lot of trials and tribulations that went with my experiences in Nepal. I mean, I was sick many times. I was dragging an ass up mountains and down trails when I wasn't sure I'd make it out alive. I was so tired, but thinking about this generation of kids that grow up and the next generation and the next generation, it makes me feel very warm thinking about those children in Bassa.
If you could leave us older folks, middle-aged folks, and young people that are listening and watching, and that will be listening and watching even later on, if you could leave us a message, a word of encouragement. We get pretty down on ourselves sometimes, and we run into the first obstacle, and we throw our hands up, and we sit down, and we say, I'm done, I'm not going no further. What would you tell people?
Well, the title of the book, You Have to Get Lost Before You Can Be Found. I mean, it's based in a way on an actual experience I had, which is the last chapter of the book, where I was literally lost by myself on a mountain in the Himalayas. It was something that was a result of kind of a stupid thing I did. But when when I was found in that particular experience was when I finally found my way back to our base camp, and the guys waiting for me and who had been searching for me up on the mountainside. Unfortunately, I was just on the wrong side of the mountain, but it was that community, being back in the warm embrace of other human beings, our own little community. Uh, it was a metaphor in my mind, and the sort of the theme that I try to develop in the book, that it's relationships with other people. It's being part of a community that gives the individual meaning. When I was lost and alone on that mountain, at first it was a cool adventure. I'll find my way back, no problem. And eventually, oh my God, it's getting dark and I'm really lost and alone. That being alone it's not a good experience. But being in the warm embrace of a community where people care about you and you care about them, and you can add to the value of the community by giving to it in whatever way your gifts and talents allow you to do, that's what makes life meaningful. I mean, it starts with the family and it extends out to your neighborhood, to your town, your village, your state, your country, the world. And in that moment when I went from being lost to finding my community, it just that really that stuck that point home, and so that's the message of the book.
Wow. Ladies and gentlemen, you have just seen and heard one of the most adventurous, interesting men that I have ever talked to. Jeff, I thank you from my heart for coming back on the show, and I hope we can do this again, and we'll definitely make sure that it's not another 7 or 8 years before we do it again, huh?
That would be great. I'd love to spend time with you anytime again, George. You let me know, and I'll be here.
I'll do that. Ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Jeff Rasley, thank you, sir. We'll continue to push the book out there. And before he goes, let me put this up one more time. You definitely need to go there. And there you can see all of his books and all the things that's on that website. And you can read all about it. And then Google him. Just Google Jeffrey. And wow, what a tremendous, tremendous life. You're a real inspiration to folks, Jeffrey. And I'm glad that you're my friend. Thank you, sir.
George, the feeling is mutual. Thanks a lot for having me.
All right, old buddy. God bless you and keep you right in the center of his hand. And thank you for coming.
Bless you too, my friend.
Whoa. My, oh, my, oh, my, oh, my. You talk about getting a warm, fuzzy feeling. All right, here's what we're going to do. It's Friday night at the Funny Farm. So far, so good. And I kicked myself right out of here. Let me go back again. Get back where I'm supposed to be. Come on. That's me and me pushing buttons. That's what I get. All right. Let me pop myself back up. There I am. Espenlaub. Espenlaub can blow it up. I'm telling you, if it's going to get blowed up, you let me get close to it, and it definitely will get blowed up. That's the button I was trying to push, although y'all can't see it. But anyhow, loosen up. We're almost out of here, but loosen up a little bit. Get up, stretch out, and tap your foot, snap your fingers, bob your head, and shake your booty. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I trust that you had as much fun you had as much fun as I did. I get it all backwards. Yeah, go ahead, Espenlaub. It's Friday night. Oh, my. Hey, I want to thank you for tuning in, viewing in, listening in, however you got in. I'm sure glad you made it. And, I better cross my fingers and tap on my head. That's knocking on wood. Better do all that stuff because it seemed like everything went fairly well. And I thank Jeff once more, Jeff Rasley, for being with us. You go to that website. My, oh, my, oh, my. Listen, if you know someone that didn't see the live stream tonight, or you know someone that didn't hear the live radio show, you get a hold of them. You tell them that they need to see and hear what took place tonight. Hey, this is Friday night. Next week, we are loaded. Woo! We are loaded to the tops. I can't get to my my little schedule book, but ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, friends, Romans, and countrymen, we have got a solid week of programming next week. Man, we're going to come at you every way that we possibly can come at you. Marty, go ahead. Marty Virgo. I'll get it. Marty's going to be on the show on Monday night. What a tremendous story. There's a movie made about it, the whole 9 yards. Tuesday night, my friend, former linebacker of the Philadelphia Eagles, conditioning coach from the Pittsburgh Steelers, my friend, come on, Espenlaub. I'm trying to look two different places and see three different things. Anthony Gribbs will be with us on Tuesday night. You talk about high energy. I'm telling you, when Anthony comes, you better be ready to really rock and roll because he's going to bring it to the house on Tuesday night. Former linebacker for the Philadelphia Phillies. He played for Cleveland. He was the conditioning coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's still involved in the NFL as a player's associate. And so he's going to bring it on Tuesday night. Wednesday night, we will be having our friend Mike Velarde back with us, who is running for a congressional seat out of the state of Florida. So he'll be with us Wednesday night. Thursday night, because we have had such great response from what we've been doing. Ed Temple, who has written the book Escape from Uncle Sam's Plantation, he's coming back on Thursday night. And we are going to do a series, and we're going to go through chapter by chapter of this tremendous book. And this suggestion didn't come from us. This suggestion came from outside people, outside sources that said, look, get into that book. Let's go chapter by chapter. So Ed's going to be with us on Thursday night, and I'm sitting here trying to remember who's coming on Friday. I can't remember, but somebody's coming on Friday. So every single night next week, we are going to be live streaming, live radio. We're just going to bang away, and we want you all to be a part of it, and I am so thankful. There, Jeff said it was delightful to spend time with you again, George. Thanks so much for having me on the show. Oh, it's been my privilege, Jeff, my privilege. And as I always say, there he said, hey, kiddo, glad you tuned in. Thanks, Dawn. Your check is in the mail. I guess it was for that compliment that you sent him, Dawn. But anyhow, I've said it so many times before, but I have met so many incredible people. I just can't stop saying it. I just can't. And I thank him for being here with us. Well, I think I got all the buttons pushed. I think everything is okay. Of course, I won't know until the very end. But when you hear that sound, and you've heard it for a long, long time on the radio, and now you're going to listen to it on the live stream. When you hear that sound, Espenlaub is about ready to get up and get out of here. Wow. We've had an incredible week. Incredible week. Wonderful time. We've live streamed to Twitter. We've live streamed to YouTube, Facebook. We've been here, there, everywhere. And listen, you spread that around. Will you do that for us? You spread that around. Come to Facebook. Come to the George Espenlaub Show page. And spend some time there. Like and follow our page. Share it with everybody so we can get the word out. Things are really, really happening. And by the way, we're teaming up with Anthony Gribbs and a venture, and then we have some other ventures that we've got planned too with some other folks. Great things happening. I'm finally getting over this crud that I've been fighting for the last week. Still got somewhat of a cough left, but I'm getting over it. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for all of your support, for your kind words. You can email me at georgece@comcast.net. Go to our blog site. We find it here. Okay, there it is. The Espenlaub.com. Go there. So there is our Spreaker show, and we air on iHeartRadio, Spotify, and every place else out there you can find the George Espenlaub Show. It has been great. It has been fun. And I hope that everything comes out all right in the end. Wow. Until then, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you from the depths of my heart for being with us. My, oh my. Join us again Monday night. One man said it's a good Lord's will and the cooks don't rise. We'll be back. So, until Monday night, 8 p.m. That's right, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. This is George Espenlaub and all of the gang here at the Funny Farm. And believe me, there is a gang up here. We all say thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being part of this broadcast. Thank you for your love. Thank you for your support. Thank you for everything that every one of you are doing to push this radio show out everywhere. So, whether you're down the street, around the corner, somewhere across America, or somewhere around this great big world, until Monday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, this is George Espenlaub saying thank you for being with us tonight. God bless you, and may He keep you right in the center of His hand. Good night, everybody. God bless you.